there were 2,025 people who died on the roads, a 10% increase compared to the same time last year. So what are the measures being put in place by the NTSA? That is the conversation we're having. We're calling it the Traffic Insider Report. Engineer Nation Kondiwa will be here, the Director General NTSA, for the first time actually here on Citizen TV. But send in your questions. I know there's a lot of questions on the backlogs of logbooks, on the new number plates, the instant fines, all that coming up. Send them your questions at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Citizen Monday Report. Also use Emmanuel ND, who's here. The latest in the sporting world. Emmanuel, good evening. It's good to see you. What's up?
Good evening, and yes, hope everyone at home is doing well. Also, Cape Verde have just held Spain to a 0-0 draw in the World Cup. That is a Group H match. So defensive masterclass, really. They didn't have much creativity in attack, but really held their defense solid. So we'll see a little bit later about the consequences about that. But the Junior Starlets also won 6-0 against Somalia, so that's a fantastic result for them. So we'll have that and more in the sports news at the end.
Is it just me on this World Cup doesn't have the oomph that World Cups always have? Or it's just me, yeah?
I don't know. It's a mix. It's a mix, because there's a lot of politics, and the timings also are a bit annoying, because, you know, there's games at 4 a.m. and da-da-da. But it will really start hotting up, especially when the knockouts come in the round of 32.
Cool. Looking forward to that. But first, our top stories tonight.
Sisi kitu tuliambiwa kuna MP2 fulani alikuwa ametuma do watu waende shughuli, lakini by the time tukonana hatukujua ni MP fulani, lakini tunajua tu ni MP wa Nairobi.
How we attacked the cathedral. Man in fear of arrest now confesses on how the Friday attack on All Saints Cathedral was planned and executed.
One good friend of mine told me, you know, if you go this journey, you could easily be taken to The Hague, because you are actually admitting that your government and those others have committed crimes. But so be it.
If admission is guilt, so be it. President Ruto apologizes and describes compensation of families and victims of protests as a tough decision and step towards healing. Ebola travel restrictions. Israel removes Kenya and Rwanda from list of countries subjected to Ebola travel ban. Rex Masai long road to justice. IPOA says probe failed to reveal the police officer who shot Rex Masai in 2024 protests. Thanks for tuning in. Yula Nzali is handling the sign language interpretation tonight. Now tonight we begin our bulletin with a chilling confession from one of the goons who were allegedly hired by a sitting Nairobi member of parliament to disrupt a post-budget meeting at All Saints Cathedral last Friday. In his confession, the man narrates how they were hired on Thursday evening to disrupt a political meeting organized by one of the opposition figures, only to learn on Friday morning that they were to stage an attack at All Saints Cathedral. The goon, who is in fear of arrest, also alleged that they are always accompanied by plainclothes police officers in the operation that include terrorizing members of the public. Garete Njoroge has more.
4 days after the country was treated to yet another ugly scene of goons terrorizing innocent Kenyans at All Saints Cathedral, one of the men hired to disrupt the post-budget review meeting has revealed to Citizen TV how the operation was planned and executed with blessings from politicians and security officers. The heads up came from one of their team members.
Akatuambia kuna shughuli ya Rigathi Gachagua tao. Sasa pia kuambia kuna shughuli, tukauliza ndio ngapi, tukaambiwa ni 2,000. Sasa huko na hiyo time ya kuuliza, tukaambiwa kila mtu mnatafuta pikipiki, mnakaa watu wawili kwa pikipiki na mwenye pikipiki.
Once they got to town, the brief changed. They were redirected to All Saints Cathedral. Their mission, to disrupt a meeting organized by members of the civil society to discuss the budget. He claims police officers in plainclothes were part of the group and were in charge of giving direction.
Fika huko tukaingia na mapikipiki. Kama polisi tulikuwa nao akatuambia, hii inachoma, tutoe mapikipiki tuende tupaki nje. Kuna mahali tuliodeshwa hapo kando wale watengeneza barabara. Tukaeka mapikipiki. Tuliambiwa kutakuwa na CCTV. Sasa mmoja wetu akaona CCTV, sasa ikalitashia sana polisi pia wenye walisikia kuna CCTV wakageuka watu. Sasa akaanza kukimbizana na watu, akaanza kukuaje. Sasa hapo ndio sisi tulitoka mbio mpaka hata tukulipiwa huko. Tulikuwa tunakuja kuletewa pesa kama tumeshafika huko kwetu.
For him, this is not an isolated incident. He has been doing it for some time now. Politicians are their main clients.
Si kitu tuliambiwa kuna MP tu fulani alikuwa ametuma do watu waende shughuli, lakini by the time tuko naenda hatukuwa tunajua ni MP fulani, lakini tunajua tu ni MP wa Nairobi. Alikuwa ametunganishia kazi, lakini bado sasa hatujui ni MP mgani. Ukipata mtu na kitu unaweza chukua tu, ukiona ameweka mbaya chukua. Hiyo time ndio umepata nafasi. So to some extent wana encourage hiyo, lakini si watu wote wanaendanga juu hiyo. Kuna tu mtu anaenda pia wale apate hiyo 1000 ama 1500 ama 2000.
But the events after the attack is of major concern to him. He claims they are being hunted down despite them acting on behalf of a politician who continues to enjoy his freedom.
Kama mtu alikuwa hapa tu kujua itakuwa hivyo, hasa tibaka saizi mapolisi wanakimbizana watu. Tibaka kuna watu wawili wameshashikwa. Walipelekwa Central na hata wajaandikiwa nini, wameandikiwa robbery, wajaandikiwa ile kitu ilifanyika.
Speaking on the Daybreak show on Citizen TV, Provost Evans Omolo claimed the case was bound to collapse due to influence from powerful politicians.
The said people who financed this stepped in to kill this case because of the publicity it has attracted, said, please release this guy. The guy was released. 2 people whose phones was allegedly stolen and went to complain. They were reimbursed 24,000 shillings each so that this case does not proceed.
Sasa ni simu tu ilipigwa ikasemekana watu wenye wameshikwa kwa huko kwa kanisa waachiliwe. Sasa waliachiliwa tu hivyo, hakuna kitu walitoa, hakuna kitu waliambiwa, waliachiliwa tu wakakuja.
ODM party leader Oburu Oginga, who weighed in on the matter, says the culture should be stopped before lawlessness takes center stage.
I think that's the nature of Goonism, where you have goons who are for hire by everybody. They are hired by both sides. This one hires them today, tomorrow you go and hire them and you pay them and they come, and that's nature of Goonism. We as leaders should take care. We must make sure that culture is stopped completely.
Police insist they are still probing the case. Gatete Njoroge, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, President William Ruto today acknowledged loss of lives and pains inflicted on thousands of Kenyans during demonstrations and protests. Ruto described compensation of families and victims of protests as a tough decision and a step towards healing the nation. Emmanuel Tob has the details.
National Assembly.
The report, which was presented to President William Ruto Monday morning, highlighted human rights violations during diverse protests held in Kenya between 2017 to 2025. In a solemn meeting held at State House, Nairobi, and attended by top government officials, President William Ruto described the deaths and injuries meted on hundreds of Kenyans in protests as a violation of their constitutional right.
No compensation can restore a life lost. No reparation can fully erase the pain of a parent who buried a child.
The president saying the proposals by KNCHR were a step in the right direction in turning a new leaf for the nation.
When a thorn pierces the foot, it is not the foot alone that suffers. The whole body stops to remove it. So it is with us.
President Ruto announcing that the state had already set aside 2 billion shillings for the compensation of those affected.
The Kenya shillings 2 billion we have committed cannot replace a son or a daughter. It cannot restore years and lot of trauma.
The head of state adding that the government's gesture is meant to advance social reconciliation, provide redress for the victims, and strengthen democracy.
What it does represent is the state's acknowledgement that harm occurred, that victims matter. What we are doing today is part of correcting the injustices of the past.
And aware of the legal landmines, the president said he was ready for any consequences.
But one good friend of mine told me, you know, if you go this journey, you could easily be taken to The Hague because you are actually admitting that your government and those others have committed crimes. But so be it. We must confront this occasion. I've had to make very difficult decisions, so this is no excuse. Let's make this one as well.
He was, however, quick to warn against violent protests in the country days before the June 25th Gen Z-led demos anniversary and the Sabasaba commemoration next month. The government also committed to fast-track the passing of legislation to safeguard the right to peacefully assemble and demonstrate.
We should not allow that situation where our own bullets are used to fight to kill our people, and let Kenyans know that when you go to demonstrate peacefully, you don't carry a machete, you don't carry a stone.
We have peaceful demonstrations in this country that we can draw experiences from. I know teachers demonstrate and they do so peacefully, even lawyers.
Emmanuel Tor, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, Kenyans affected by violent protests from 2017 will receive between 50,000 shillings to 2.5 million shillings compensation from next week. While unveiling the framework that will guide the compensation exercise, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, however, says that the government should publicly apologize to the victims for the violation of their rights. Brenda Wanga has more.
It began as a push from State House to form an independent payout panel, but a landmark High Court ruling swiftly dismantled it, establishing that only the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights has the sole legal authority to arbitrate state-inflicted trauma. Now the numbers are officially laid bare. The Commission has painstakingly verified a massive number of claims stemming from police operations and public order enforcement since the 2017-2022 election cycle and the 2023-2025 Gen Z and Sabasaba protests. The state has committed a purse of 2 billion shillings to compensate the victims. According to the breakdown, families of those who suffered loss of lives will be getting a minimum of 2.5 million shillings. Victims of torture and SGBV, 2 million shillings, and forced disappearance, 1.5 million shillings, various degrees of injuries, loss of business, as well as arbitrary arrests will also be compensated.
The Commission wants to categorically state that compensation is just one of those components of reparations. And this is in acknowledgement that as a country, we sometimes have resource constraint, and the report highly recommends that priority be given to collective reparations, especially for regions and areas that have historically suffered from the effects of protests.
And will be in a position, Your Excellency, to begin making payments in as short a time as a week from today.
But the quest for justice for those affected, now currently standing at just over 1,000 verified claims, is not confined to monetary value. It is looking at the emotional shrapnel that remains long after the bullet is fired.
Let me also be clear about what these payments are and what they are not. They are not the price of life, of pain, or of loss. No amount of money could ever be.
KNCHR is demanding a sweeping checklist of non-monetary restitution, including policy and legislative actions that will protect protesters and limit police excesses. It is also asking the state to issue a formal and conditional public apology from the highest office of the state security.
The framework, therefore, seeks to establish a victim-centered, transparent, and accountable system capable of delivering accessible and effective remedies in accordance with the Constitution.
This framework will now land on the parliamentarians' desks, whose duty will now be to make sure that accountability goes beyond writing checks for those who have been victims of this protest, that it also includes adequate funding for commissions like the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, and also enacting laws that will ensure that the lawful protests in the country will never be violent again. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
The Independent Policing Oversight Authority has admitted in court that it lacks sufficient evidence against the prime suspect in the killing of Rex Masai, saying that investigations could not identify him. Lawyers representing the National Police Service have accused IPOA of overlooking critical evidence, including CCTV footage from private and government buildings, and failing to trace key eyewitnesses in the June 2024 shooting that led to Masai's death. Melita Oletenges has the details.
The inquest into the 2024 death of Rex Masai during protests against the finance bill took a fresh twist on Monday after an IPOA investigator told the court that investigations had failed to identify the shooter. IPOA investigator Justin Nyatete, who was being cross-examined by lawyers representing the National Police Service, said he recommended an inquest to the DPP. The lawyers challenged IPOA's investigation, arguing that the authority failed to gather enough evidence to directly link the main suspect, Isaiah Murangiri Ndumba, to the fatal shooting of Rex Masai.
Did you recover the bullet?
No, we did not.
You did not recover the bullet. Did you recover the spent cartridge?
No, we did not.
Did you find the gun which was used to discharge the bullet?
No, we did not.
Do you have an eyewitness?
Who saw him being shot?
Yes. Do you have one?
Not really.
You don't have one.
The defense team also questioned IPOA's handling of video evidence, with investigator Justin Nyatete conceding that the agency did not collect all available CCTV footage that could have provided a clearer picture of events at the scene. He cited several challenges that hindered the probe, including difficulties in preserving the crime scene and lack of cooperation from the National Police Service.
And then I'm sure you're a police officer, you understand the IC3 cameras.
Yes, Your Honor.
The integrated communication cameras, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
We have one right at the junction of Mamangina Street and Moy Avenue.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you ever request for that CCTV?
No, we did not.
That CCTV covers Mamangina Street and it also covers Moy Avenue. At the junction of Mamangina Street and Kimathi Street, where they actually join, where you have the statue. You're familiar with the statue?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
There's another IC3 camera.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you ever request that footage?
No, we did not.
You did not request.
The lawyers further cited a testimony from Rex Masai's close friend George Ndikas, who told the court that Masai had already been shot in the leg before the moment prosecutors claim suspect Isaiah Murangiri Ndumba fired his weapon.
You are exempted from investigating offences committed by civilians. Is that correct?
IPOA investigator Justin Nyatete is expected to return to the witness stand on Thursday for re-examination by the prosecution. Lawyers representing the National Police Service have poked holes into evidence and investigations carried out by the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, pointing out that IPOA neglected key evidence, including CCTV camera footage that could have placed the perpetrators of this heinous act at the primary scene of crime. Melita Oletenges, Citizen TV at the Milimani Law Courts, Nairobi.
Staying in the corridors of justice, the widow of the late Tob Cohen, Sarah Wairimu, was overwhelmed in court after police officers showed the court videos of how Cohen's body was discovered hidden inside a water tank. During the testimony of former Parklands OCPD James Muribo, police showed Cohen's body tightly bound with ropes and poorly covered. Muribo told the court trouble between Cohen and Wairimu began earlier in 2019, months before he disappeared. Willie Lusige has the details.
The time of record is in the statement, Your Honor.
It was the turn of former Parklands OCPD James Muribo and homicide detectives to tell the court the account on Tob Cohen's death. The Kibra High Court heard that before the murder of Dutch national Cohen and the consignment of his body in a water tank at his Kitusuru home, he had complained to Parklands Police Station that his assault case at Spring Valley Police Station, allegedly involving his wife Sarah Wairimu, was not being properly followed up.
I instructed the IO.
A former OCPD of Parklands Police Station told the court that Cohen visited the station in February 2019, where he recorded a statement and presented medical documents indicating he had been assaulted.
To proceed on with the investigation, a statement was recorded. Your Honor, I actually saw the treatment notes. Actually, there is PT form.
He told the court they were unable to arrest Wairimu as Cohen later declined to give further statements. He added that a letter was later delivered by an identified person claiming to have been sent by Cohen, ordering the suspension of the investigations. The officer said attempts to reach Cohen by phone were unsuccessful and he later went missing.
The delay of the case was occasioned by his slow pace of cooperation and also his failure to show us the accused or give us his contact. Okay.
For the first time, detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations presented video evidence showing how Cohen's body was recovered from a water tank outside his house. Investigators told the court that after the extensive search, they identified an area with 3 semen moles on the floor above the tank. They further told the court that it took a long time to retrieve the body, which had been tightly bound with ropes and wrapped in a plastic bag and a curtain.
What I want to show before this court, my relationship, is how it was uncovered and what was found beneath.
Sarah Wairimu was unable to continue watching the footage, prompting the court to take a short break. The court has allowed Wairimu to visit her home in the company of police on Monday next week and to access banking services. With more than 45 witnesses lined up to testify on the Cohen murder case, which has a long way to go, the court has promised to be able to find a lasting solution to see the case end as soon as possible. Willie Lusige, Citizen TV, Kibra, Local.
Now, police in Kathiani in Machakos County have launched investigations into an incident where the bodies of 2 adult women and dismembered human remains suspected to belong to a child were discovered dumped in a thicket in Kaseveni village. According to residents there, the shocking discovery was made after a dog was spotted carrying a human limb believed to be that of a child. Residents followed the dog, leading them to a thicket where they found the bodies of 2 women and a human skull. Residents claim that the bodies appeared to have been mutilated, with some claiming that they may have been subjected to corrosive substances. However, Kathiani Sub-County Police Commander George Kashmiri dismissed the claims as premature, saying investigations are still ongoing to establish the circumstances surrounding the death.
Mtoto alikuwa fresh. So tunaomba serikali ikuje ichunguze kama kutapatikana miili mingine ama kijulikane ni kiini gani ambayo kilichangia watu kuja kutupa hapa. It seems it is a family ambayo iliuawa at a place ya kuja kukua dubbed here. So hiyo miili ilikuwa imemwangiwa acid, so you cannot uwezi jua ni kina nani kwa sababu sura ilikuwa imeharibika kabisa.
Ilikuwa acid na kukawa na hii mkuu nyusu ilikuwa pande ile imetupwa hapo kando kidogo ya hiyo kichaka. Ukiwa wameanguka hapa, hiyo mkuu ilikuwa pande ile.
Inaonekana kuna mtu wa eneo hilo ambaye alikuwa anahusika na kuleta hiyo mili mahali ilipatikana. Maana hii mili hatuwezi tambua kwa wakati huu na imeharibika kiasi kwamba hatuwezi tambua ni ya wapi.
Let them give us information. Whenever they see any kind of suspicious motor vehicle at night, let them report.
Now, Israel has removed Kenya from the list of countries subjected to temporary Ebola-related entry restrictions. The announcement came just hours after Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Korir Sing'oei protested the inclusion of Kenya in a list of countries facing new travel restrictions over Ebola concerns, citing Kenya's role and commitment as a leader in the regional surveillance and response to Ebola. The developments come as Ebola cases in Congo increased by 72 in a single day, as Africa CDC voiced concerns over weak contact tracing a month after the outbreak.
On Wednesday, June 10th, the Israeli embassy in Kenya published a list of 5 African countries whose citizens, residents, and visitors were barred from visiting Israel. In the statement signed by Amnon Shmueli sent to all airlines, the head of border control at the Ben Gurion International Airport prohibited airlines from boarding foreign citizens and nationals from Kenya, Uganda, DRC, Rwanda, and South Sudan. The statement further directs that any visitors who have visited any of the said countries 21 days prior to traveling are also barred from entering Israel. On Monday, Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Korir Sing'oei protested the inclusion of Kenya in the ban, noting that Kenya has no reported Ebola cases to justify the ban. In the statement posted on his X account, Sing'oei termed the restriction unfortunate, adding that Kenya has been on the forefront of regional Ebola response efforts. Hours later, the Israeli embassy backtracked, posting on their X account that they have removed Kenya and Rwanda from the list of countries subject to temporary Ebola-related entry restrictions. The Democratic Republic of Congo on Sunday reported a record surge of 72 confirmed Ebola cases within a single 24-hour period, bringing the national total to 782 confirmed cases and 181 deaths. Congo's Ministry of Health said the 72 new cases were reported in a 24-hour period, one of the highest daily increases in Ebola cases a month since it was first reported. Africa CDC has raised the alarm on the outbreak, with contact tracing coverage dropping sharply to 56.5% as conflict and displacement hinder containment efforts. Mary Mwoki, Citizen TV.
All right, on that note, the Monday Report is taking a quick break. When we're back, we'll talk about some more news, get into some business news, and then sporting action, then have a conversation with the NTSA Director General, Engineer Nation Kondiwa. Send in all your questions at Trevor Video at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Citizen Monday Report. See you in just a bit.
Counting losses. Hundreds of acres of maize plantation could go to waste as rains fail in the country's food basket region.
Thanks for staying with the Monday Report. Now, hundreds of acres under maize plantations could go to waste in the country's food basket region of Nzoia after rains failed. Farmers are now living in fear as their crops begin to wither following weeks without rain. An initial assessment done by the Ministry of Agriculture indicated that out of the 250,000 acres under maize plantations, more than 50,000 acres have already been severely affected. Miriam Nyambura has the details.
In Kapsitwet village, Nzoia, Christopher Opilo, a farmer, watches helplessly as his dreams of becoming a successful maize farmer fade. Opilo normally harvests over 250 bags of maize from his 5-acre piece of land. This year's drought has left him counting losses.
Na hatujui hata serikali pengine kwa njia moja ama nyingine watafanya nini kumsaidia huyu mkulima ambaye alikuwa amejaribu kujitolea kwa hali na mali, aone kama ataweza kujikimu kimaisha, lakini imekuwa ngumu.
Hii mimea haijaweza kunyonya ile mbolea ambayo iliwekewa, na hiyo inamaanisha pia mazao yatakuwa duni. Kwa hivyo kuna changamoto, na hii itakuwa na impact kwa usalama wa chakula katika kaunti yetu ya Trans Nzoia na kwa Kenya mzima kwa jumla.
The situation is no different for George Namasaka, a young farmer who ventured into maize farming this year. George expected to get a bumper harvest, but his crops are drying up even before they mature.
Kukiendelea hivi, tunapoteza matumaini na ukulima. Sidhani kama tutaweza rudi kwa ukulima wa mahindi tena. Tuanze kupanda vitu zingine kando na mahindi.
Acreage zile zinatumika kwa upanzi wa mahindi ni 250,000. Na kulingana na wiki kiangazi tunaona kwa percentage wise 30 to 40%, kama ekari 50,000 zitakuwa affected.
As the country's food basket, drying up of maize plantation threatens Kenya's food security.
Hii imetuhit sana kwa sababu last year tulitoa mahindi over 7 million bags of 90 kgs.
Authorities say the government is conducting a detailed assessment to determine the scale of losses and put in place measures to cushion the expected shortfall. Marian Nyambura, Citizen TV.
Now, Kenya has welcomed the ceasefire agreement between the United States and Iran, stating that the deal between Washington and Tehran will go great lengths to lift energy burden off the shoulders of countries that were severely affected by the conflict. Now, this comes as President William Ruto travels to Evian in France to attend the 52nd summit that is expected to focus on that and other pressing global challenges. Ayub Abdikadir is in France.
The agreement between Washington and Tehran reopens a vital global passage for 20% of world's oil and will mark an end to more than 75 days of hostilities in the Middle East. Kenya, one of the affected countries whose energy lifeline was disrupted, leading to demonstrations against a hike in fuel prices, occasioned by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, expressed immediate support, stating that the development offers hope for de-escalation, the reopening of vital maritime routes such as the Strait, and the broader stabilization of the Middle East region, which it said will benefit global energy security, trade, and the lives of millions affected by the conflict. The specific consequences of the conflict evident in the statement by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which outlined the importance of how the agreement between Washington and Tehran will end the economic strain on Kenya and economic equals who depend on the Middle East for their energy. Nairobi congratulating all parties involved on choosing the path of negotiation over what it termed further confrontation. President William Ruto is among the participants who will be in Evian for the 2026 G7 summit, with the deal expected to take a lion's share of the agenda. Ayub Abdikadir, Citizen TV.
And Ayub is now live from Evian. Ayub, how is the summit shaping up?
Trevor, good evening from Evian in France for the 52nd summit of the G7. All the leaders of the G7 are here, starting with Donald Trump. And he comes here a bit after the agreement he had with the Islamic Republic of Iran in that story that we highlighted, which will reopen the Strait of Hormuz, and that will lift the burden off the shoulders of energy-dependent countries like ours, Kenya, on the Gulf, following the more than 75 days conflict that followed the strikes by the United States and Israel on Iran. However, he has more part of the puzzle here to fix, and that includes the long list of grievances he has with the European Union and NATO in particular. Only Japan, out of the 7 countries, is a non-NATO member of the biggest military alliance in the world, NATO. He and hawks in Washington have decried underfunding and questioning why America is spending more in defending Europe, and that's likely going to make up the agenda of tomorrow's session. Now, for President William Ruto, who is airborne, we understand will be here tomorrow early morning, and this will be a priority for him. It's going to be having a weight and the significance this meeting bears by the head of state when he will be attending the G7 summit here in Evian, Trevor. The president has been consistent in his foreign policy communication that Kenya looks neither the west or the east but forward. How he maintains that posture is going to be very important in the midst of the men who are running capitals that includes Washington and London here in Evian. And the third part, which is most important of his participation in this summit, Trevor, is that he carries the African voice coming to this summit. The head of state will be against the backdrop of skepticism on the part of many Africans, and that includes the western part of the continent, the Sahel belt, the former French colonies who have prompted the painful French retreat from West Africa and now to the East Coast, which has informed the Africa Forward Summit that was co-hosted by Elysee Palace and State House in Nairobi. All this, Trevor, will be on the table and part of the agenda, how the president is going to manage the expectations of the competing interests on the part of world leaders and the competing events that are also demanding the attention of world leaders, and the fraction, therefore, that is going to dedicate to Kenya's geopolitical positioning and the events around the country. That includes the troubled transition in Somalia, the concluded elections in Ethiopia, the volatile situation in the Great Lakes region, compounded by the Ebola outbreak. Whether the president will be carrying that weight of the African voice is what many Africans will be looking at here, as he becomes the second African head of state who will be here after Egypt's Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, who will be arriving tomorrow early morning for that important session that will equally center around global security, the unresolved issue in Ukraine, and Donald Trump, who his hawkishness at times plays out in important international event such as the G7 here happening 2026 in Evian.
Thanks, Ayub. Ayub, they are speaking to us from France in Evian, where the 52nd G7 summit is happening there. Another issue in the agenda is the AI, how it's affecting the global shift of power. We'll talk about that at some point. But back home, Safina Party leader Jimmy Wanjigi has raised a red flag over the government's plan to borrow over 1 trillion shillings domestically in the next financial year, insisting that the loan is illegal and was not provided for in treasury documents on estimates of revenue, grants and loans. Wanjigi also called on Kenyans to stand firm and reject the Finance Bill 2026, which is expected in Parliament tomorrow, adding that it is meant to overburden Kenyans with more taxes. Emmanuel To has more.
The Safina Party leader continued his criticism of the government's excessive borrowing, terming the plan to borrow over 1 trillion shillings domestically from July 1st an illegality.
That we know this domestic borrowing does not exist, and there's nobody really that is taking this domestic debt to the tune of 7 trillion. There's no such money in the market. This is fake.
Wanjigi highlighting what he termed a deliberate omission of the amount of domestic debt on the estimates of revenue, grants and loans by the National Treasury received by Parliament on 30th of April 2026.
I ask you to look at the page, the table of contents of those budget estimates before Parliament stipulate as net domestic borrowing at page 24. When you go to page 24, you will find there is no net domestic borrowing number. It does not exist, it is zero, and has never existed.
Wanjigi cautioned Kenyans against lending any money to the government.
Buyer beware, it is your risk. I'm telling you, that paper, you throw it in the dustbin, because this regime will change, and it's going to change next year, and it will not be honored.
The Safina Party leader also called on Kenyans to reject the Finance Bill 2026, which is expected to be tabled in Parliament this week, as the government plans to mull the revenue-raising measures through the House.
The Finance Bill is hoping to levy taxes of another 120 billion shillings from us. We cannot afford it. This is money that is not going to help us.
Emmanuel To, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
All right, let's take another quick break here on the Monday Report. We're back with some business news in just a short while, so don't go. Time now for some business news. In Kenya is set to host the Africa Capital Markets Week, a continental investment platform aimed at deepening capital markets, mobilizing private sector financing and strengthening Africa's economic sovereignty. Now, the event, which is set to start on August 30th, brings together investors, policymakers and business leaders to explore how to mobilize and tap into the continent's growing pools of capital to finance development away from debt reliance. Jimmy Bogo has more.
Obligation pressures for African countries continues to mount. Capital market stakeholders are calling on African governments to explore alternative sources of capital to fund development on the continent. Speaking during the preparation breakfast for the forthcoming Africa Capital Markets Week, the organizers note that the capital market has the ability to narrow the funding gaps.
Across the continent, the demand for infrastructure, finance, industrialization, climate resilience and social development continues to grow. Yet, while Africa faces significant development financing gaps, global markets are increasingly seeking credible, sustainable, and high-growth investment opportunities.
Deepening of capital markets is a Vision 2030 project from 2008. It was one of the first top Vision 2030 flagship. It's morphed, it's changed over a while, but it's been very consistent.
The Africa Capital Markets Week comes as Kenya seeks to strengthen its position as a regional financial hub following recent gains in the country's capital market, which have provided fresh momentum. According to the Capital Market Authority, the NSE 20-share index increased by 59.9% to 3,491 points in May 2026, while market capitalization expanded by 61% to 3.4 trillion shillings, up from 2.1 trillion over the same period, boosted by stabilizing macroeconomic policies.
That there are really four conditions that we're going to have to address. One is policy. Governments and regulators agreeing on how friction will be removed between our borders so that investors can seamlessly interact in investment opportunities on the continent.
The emphasis for alternative capital reflects a broader sentiment emerging among policymakers and market participants who note that Africa's next stage of economic development will depend not only on attracting more capital, but also on creating systems capable of deploying it effectively. Jamie Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Now, Kenya is shifting its trade strategy with China from importing goods to exporting more value-added products. Business leaders say new duty-free access to the Chinese market is creating fresh opportunities for Kenyan manufacturers, farmers, and exporters. The Kenya National Chamber of Commerce and Industry says recent zero-tariff access for eligible Kenyan products into China presents a major opportunity for local businesses to expand into one of the world's largest markets. This was revealed during a briefing ahead of the Africa International Construction Machinery Expo conference slated from Wednesday this week.
The opportunities which are there in Kenya, we form part of the global target from the Chinese market. So what the companies we are targeting, or the sectors, one is the agricultural sector, manufacturing, mining, logistics, and energy. All these are the target sectors we are targeting, so that our SMEs can benefit out of this. Our level compared with Chinese is very, very, very far.
Now, gut health is often regarded as the cornerstone of a person's overall health. A healthy gut almost translates to a healthy body. Kenyans have been actively embracing practices like consuming kombucha to keep their guts healthy. To meet the growing demand, a local venture, Booch, is now making a premium kombucha using locally sourced raw materials. Edward Chua visited their factory in Ruiru and tells us this story in our Made in Kenya segment.
Made in Kenya, brought to you by Equity. Power your next move with up to 100% asset financing from Equity for commercial and personal use vehicles. Visit your Equity branch today to apply for asset financing.
At this factory in Ruiru, several jars are filled with what looks like honey. But it is not. This is actually black tea undergoing fermentation to make kombucha, a popular drink among Kenyans known to boost gut health and improve general health.
Booch is all about Kenya's premium kombucha drink. So we make it from fermented oolong tea, and we add real fruits and botanicals just to make the brand of Booch, which is a premium kombucha drink in Kenya.
Booch makes 8 different flavors of kombucha using a kombucha's scoby, or symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, the living starter culture used to ferment sweetened tea into kombucha.
So the process starts with the first brew, where we ferment the tea, we prepare the tea, and we ferment it for 7 days. And then after that, we now add the fruits, the real fruits. And of course, we are also using SCOBY, which is what are the bacteria and the probiotics in it. And then we end up with a very wonderful kombucha drink. We have passion, we have mango chili, we have raspberry, we have blueberry, we have hibiscus, we have ginger, and we have elderflower.
Kabai says the reception for their products has been positive over the last 10 years they have been in operation.
It's a new phenomenon in this part of the world, and initially it was a little bit hard. People didn't understand what kombucha is, but gradually as we have continued ensuring there's more information going out and the health benefits are well known, the reception has kept on improving, and we are seeing more and more people understanding what kombucha is.
The common misconception is that kombucha is alcoholic because it is fermented and due to how it is packaged.
Booch is not alcoholic, and the reason why we preserve it in amber glass bottles or even aluminum cans is because we want to preserve the benefits, the health benefits that the product has. If you package it in another kind of packaging like plastic or anything, it will leach into the packaging and we lose the health benefits that it has.
Booch has created employment opportunities for 30 people.
I've been working for Booch for 7 years. I am a lawyer by profession, but a food scientist by association and passion. So I've developed new skills. I've grown professionally. It's given me a stable job and most of the youths across the country. So yeah, I've been part of the journey to see us develop new products and to be able to sell premium products across the country.
Kabai says the future for Booch is to be available everywhere.
In the long run, we want to be the premium kombucha brand in East Africa. We want to be available in all the neighboring countries as the premium kombucha brand.
Edward Chea, Made in Kenya, Citizen TV.
Made in Kenya, brought to you.
All right, welcome back to the program. My name's Emmanuel Ndungu. Let's get into the sports news. The national under-17 women's football team, the Junior Starlets, registered another big win in their second CECAFA football match against Somalia to qualify for the semi-finals with a game to spare. After demolishing South Sudan 16-0, the Junior Starlets hammered Somalia 6-0 to maintain their 100% record in the tournament. Faith Boke scored her first goal of the tournament to give Kenya a 1-0 lead after 15 minutes of play. 2 minutes later, Brenda Achieng scored her 8th goal of the tournament for 2-0. Two quick goals in the 23rd and 25th minutes put Kenya 4-0 up going into the half-time break. In the second half, Elizabeth Alizeba notched her 3rd goal of the championship before Patience Waithera crowns the game with an 83rd minute goal for the 6-0 win. In 2 matches, the Junior Starlets have scored 22 goals and collected the maximum 6 points.
Ni left footer na mguu wake wa kushoto. Mpira ambao umerudi. Bado ni heka wako mpira ndani kule, ni bala 6.
Great performance there. Now Mohit Medirata sits at the top of the leaderboard after the opening round of the Kabete Challenge, the 3rd leg of the Sunshine Development Tour East Africa Swing at the Vet Lab Sports Club. After bogeys in the 1st and 3rd hole, Mohit picked up 6 birdies in the 2nd, 11th, 14th, 15th and 17th holes for a 3 under par 69 score. This gave him a 1-shot lead over new professional Taumur Malik. Malik's 2 under par 70 score included 4 birdies and only 2 bogeys. Nigeria's 20-year-old Godwin Okoko is the highest ranked foreigner in 3rd with a score of 1 under par 71. 4 players are tied for 4th with a level par score. They include Adil Balala, Michael Karanja, Rwanda's Celestine Nsanzuera and Edwin Mudani. And more than 800 athletes drawn from 16 Athletics Kenya regional affiliates will converge in Nairobi for the National Athletics Championships that will double up as the trials to select Team Kenya for the Commonwealth Games, set for Glasgow in Scotland from July 23rd to the 2nd of August 2026. Athletics Kenya received a major boost for the championship with an injection of 10 million shillings from KCB Bank.
And this event is going to start on the 18th and goes on 19th and closes on 20th. of June. The teams to participate in this championship or in this event are expected to arrive latest on the 17th, because this will be the occasion where the athletes will be given running bibs.
We firmly believe that sports is a powerful platform for fostering national pride, nurturing talent, and creating opportunities for young people to showcase their abilities on local, regional, and global stages.
Now, the Ivory Coast